Imagine New York City in 1927. The President of the United States was Calvin Coolidge. The population of the country was just under 120 million people. The Holland Tunnel had just opened, connecting Manhattan to Jersey City. And in Harlem Hospital, two people were falling in love. They were Helen Jeffries of Boise, Idaho, and Abol Ghassem Bakhtiar of Borujen, Iran. These are my grandparents. Helen was much younger than Abol Ghassem. She was 22 years old, and Abol Ghassem was 55 years old. But they met at Harlem Hospital, and it was there that my grandfather Abol Ghassem recited Helen stories from Iran's national epic, the Shahnameh. And I wanted to show you this book and talk to you a little bit about the significance and tell you which story in particular it was that Helen loved. This is the Shahnameh, and it was written in the late 10th century by the Persian poet Ferdowsi. And it took him 35 years to write it, and it goes back to the time of creation all the way until the 7th century with the advent of Islam. And the poet Ferdowsi wrote this book, 60,000 rhyming couplets, in pure Persian. And he did that because he very much wanted Iranians to understand and be proud of their own heritage before Islam, to understand their history, the history of their kings. And so one of the stories in particular that Helen loved was the story of Zal and Rudabeh. Zal was a white-haired warrior, and he traveled through distant lands throughout the surrounding areas of Iran, and he came across Kabul. And there he fell in love with Rudabeh, the daughter of King Mehrab. King Mehrab was an enemy of Iran, and Rudabeh was the ancestor of King Zahak, who was a very scary king who had actually serpents coming out of his shoulders, and human brains had to be fed to these serpents. And so Rudabeh came from that history. But Zal fell in love with her eyelashes, her fair skin, and Rudabeh fell in love and was intrigued by Zal's white hair and his strength as a warrior. But those are the stories that came from the Shahnameh that my grandfather Abol Ghassem would recite to Helen. And believe it or not, that is how they fell in love. They went back to Iran in 1931 and began one of the first hospitals and had 7 children together. My mother, Mary Nell, is their youngest daughter.